Hi, what's going on everyone? And in this video, we're going to be taking a look at how to write your first web page. Okay, so we are beginning to upload series about how to actually learn how to code from the ground up. And in the first one, we actually reviewed quite a few editors. But in this one, we're going to actually download one of the editors that we have chosen, and then we should be able to actually write some lines of code in this particular one. And you don't even have to know how to write any lines of code before now. So the only thing that you need right here is to just indicate interest. If you are actually interested in learning how to actually do this is actually the right place to actually do that. So if you are watching this from YouTube, feel free to subscribe. If you are watching this from Facebook, feel free to follow us, Instagram, X, and any other official handle of Code Kinder. You should feel free to actually follow us, okay? Because we are going to be bringing out quite lots of videos in the future, and we are actually doing this geared toward the beginners at this particular point. Okay, so if you know people who are interested in learning how to code and maybe they do not have the money or have the resources to actually get courses and learn, this is actually the right time for you to actually invite them. So you can like this video, share it with them, and feel free to actually come around and then learn with us. So without wasting more time, let's dive right in and see how easy that we are able to generate our first web page. We talked about document declaration, the title, the heading, and that of the title, that of the paragraphs of our web page. Okay, so it's going to be very simple. Okay, so let's dive right in and see how that is actually done. All right, so we're going to first of all download this Notepad++. So if you're with me, you should just go to https://notepad++.org/downloads, and then you can go ahead and download any of the versions that we have in here. And I think that the first one right here actually has some vulnerability fixes that needs to actually take place. Okay, so that means that this one is actually not ready for people to be using right now. So I'm going to go for the second version, which is 8.5.6 right here. So I'm going to click on that. All right, so that's going to open up. So the next thing that I need to do is to go ahead and click on this download, the icon right here for the download to start. And if you want to use any other editor, you can actually do that. Okay, if you have other editors that you want to use, you can do that, but I recommend this one because of the fact that it's going to force you to be able to kind of take care of a lot of things without getting something like a code hinting or things of that nature. All right, so I think that that has been downloaded completely, even though we kind of run out of the internet. Okay, but that has been downloaded and it's actually scanning. So that is it. So if you click right here, you're going to see that we have a new file downloaded, so it has a .exe extension. So I'm going to open that up right now. This is the file. So what I'm going to do is just double click on that. I'm going to go ahead, select English, click on next, and right here I'm going to accept the license agreement, and you can go ahead and download it to this particular, save it to this particular folder. So it's going to be in my C drive program files /notepad++. So let's go ahead and click on next, and you can actually do some settings right here. But what I'm going to do right now is to just go ahead and click on next. So I'm going to install it as default. Okay, so you want to create a shortcut on desktop, you can actually do that by clicking right here and go ahead and click on install. And we're going to go ahead and then run it by leaving this check mark right there. If you click on finish, it's going to run that application. So I'm going to click on finish, and that has actually launched the application. Okay, so let's just go ahead and say it's kind of need some updates, so let's just update that. I think it just downloaded like a newer version. I think it should be, wait, it kind of, I feel like it is actually downloading this up to 3 times for me. I don't need it. I think I'm going to cancel this right here. So let's cancel this out. And right here it says let's go ahead and click no, and I want to go to my desktop right now, and here is the application. Okay, so this is the log. I can just go ahead and close that up. Okay, so that's basically the application right now, Notepad++. You can go ahead and then type our code right here, and after that we're going to go ahead and then save that. Okay, so that's just what it is right now. This is how to download and install Notepad++. All right, so we can actually start writing the HTML code proper, but before we do that, I want to put I want everything that we're going to be doing right here to be saved into a folder. So we're going to go to our desktop right now, and what I'm going to do right now is that I'm going to create a folder right here, and you should do the same if you're following along. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to create a folder that I'm going to call HTML and let's say and CSS. Okay, so this is basically the training folder. We're going to be saving all the files that we're going to be creating in this particular folder. All right, so let's go back to the Notepad++, and all we need to do right now is on this particular page, you're writing our HTML code. We need to like basically tell the browser that we are actually writing a particular version or family of HTML. Okay, so the reason that I said that is because we have versions of HTML. We have version 1, we have 2, up to that of the 5. Okay, so currently the version that we're actually writing is called HTML5, and that's the one we're going to be writing. Okay, and don't bother yourself about HTML1, 2, 3, 4 at all. Okay, so what we're going to actually basically focus on right now is going to be that of the HTML5, and to tell the browser or to indicate to the browser that the family or the version of HTML that you're writing is actually HTML5 is very simple. So we're going to start that with a less than sign. Just take a look at the screen, and I'm going to put an exclamation sign, and you can just do doc type, and you can just create a space and then just say HTML, and we can close that out with a greater than sign. And with that alone, it means that you've actually indicated to the browser that you are writing HTML5. Okay, other versions like version 4, 5, version 4, 3, 2, and 1, they have their own way of actually indicating them, which is a lot longer. It's not even actually easy to remember. Myself, I can't remember how to type that. But HTML5 is actually very simple, very easy to remember. So that is it right there. So this is how to indicate to the browser that the family or the version of HTML that you're writing is actually HTML5. Okay, so that is just that right there. And after that, the next thing that we basically want to do is I think you guys may not actually be seeing this very well. So I think it's a good practice if I can actually increase this font size. So I'm going to click on settings, click on style configurator, and if you have this selected, you can click on default style right here, and then you can set the font size. So let's set that to like 20, and I think that that's actually better. So let's click on save and close, and that looks a lot bolder right now. All right, so we basically have that version indicated right there. So the next thing that we actually want to do is to like tell the browser what language of programming code we're actually writing. So in our case is actually HTML. And then to tell the browser that it's actually HTML is actually very simple. So we're going to just start that with less than sign and just say HTML right there, and you can close that with greater than sign. And notice that I'm actually starting everything with less than sign and then closing that with a greater than sign. And that actually brings me to a point right now. So from this point up, I want to take a look at what we call a keyword, a tag name in HTML. And tag name in HTML are actually keywords that you can actually use in properly formatting whatever that you want to format, any elements in your HTML code. Okay, so with that reason, it means that HTML code actually they are strictly they go with tags. Okay, and we have opening tag and then closing tag. Most of the things or most of the elements that we're going to be writing are going to be enclosed between opening tag and then closing tag. So you need to put that down. So we are just saying that HTML code, that most of the things that we're going to be writing are going to be enclosed in tags. Okay, so for that reason, this HTML that we have actually indicated to our browser right now that we are writing HTML code, it actually comes in tag. So this one that I have written right now is the opening tag, and then to create the closing tag, we can actually do that by almost the same thing. Okay, but I'm going to show you the difference right now. So I'm going to just do less than sign, the forward slash, and I'm going to just say HTML like that, and this means that I have an opening tag and this is a closing tag. Okay, so between this place we can add quite a lot of things in here. So you see what that is? So this is opening tag and this is a closing tag. So with that means that the syntax for HTML is actually this. I'm going to put that in here, but I'm going to delete it afterwards. So it means that we're going to be needing tag name, and then anything can actually be, let's say anything can be here, and we can close that with a tag name. So we can just basically say tag name and close that out. Okay, so this is the syntax. Basically, you need to write this down and then have it at the back of your mind. The majority of the things that we are going to be doing are going to be in this format. So the tag name, in this case, this is a tag name, and with the one that I've actually written right now, HTML is a tag, okay, and it's an opening tag. So this is the closing tag. So that's just if you translate this, that's just what it means. Okay, so anything can then come in between the tags. Okay, I'm going to take this away right now. And what I'm going to do with the HTML tag, having indicated that this is HTML language, we can also add an extra attribute that is actually called language. So we're going to just say lang and then set that to equal to something like, let's say this is equal to en. En means English. Okay, you're telling the browser that the language of your web page is English, and if you want to like choose the specific language variant, let's say you want to use US, you can just put dash right here and just say US. That means that you're using United States English. As simple as that. So that is just that. So after that, right now, what I want to do next is I want you to understand that within this HTML tag that we have in here, we have just indicated that any element can actually be in between that place. So I want to create another element right now, which is actually called head. Okay, so let's put that. I'm going to just do less than sign and just say head. Let's make sure we type that correctly. So this is head, and within this head region, remember this one that I've actually created is open tag, and I'm going to copy that, paste that, and then add a forward slash right here, meaning that this one actually closes this particular one. So that's open and close tag. Okay, so in between this head region right now, we can go ahead and then add quite lots of things between this particular head. So things like your metadata can actually be here. You can link to your CSS, external CSS right here. Your title can be here. Okay, so for that reason, let's do that in practical. So I'm going to create something like a title in between this place. So I'm going to just create a tag that is actually called title. So to do what? To create a tag in HTML, I mean to create a title in HTML, you put that in between the title tags. So we're going to do that right now. This is going to be less than sign, then title, and let's see that the name of our web application is going to be my first website, and we can actually go ahead and close that right here. We're going to have to close the title tag. So this is going to be title, and we'll have that closed. Remember, this is from here to here is the title, which is the opening tag, and I'm closing that out right here with title. Closing tag. The difference is just the forward slash. So we'll have that right there, and that is just it in creating a title for our web application. So the next thing I want to do right now, I want to save this file the way that it is right now. Okay, so we have some other things that we can actually add. So for instance, within this head, we're going to have to add something like our CSS if we want to. But we're not doing CSS in this one, so I'm going to leave that out, okay, for now. But then I want to save this file right now, and it's saving the HTML file. This is the first file that we're actually creating, and for that reason, it has to be saved with a special name. Okay, so let's say for instance, if we go to our browser right now, I want to basically find, let's say we'll go to something like W3 Schools. So this is going to be w3schools.com, and then we hit enter, and you see that this page actually opens up. By the way, this is actually a very resourceful website for learning how to code. Okay, so I'm giving that to you now as a resource. So if you want to find a website that you can actually learn how to code HTML, CSS, JavaScript, just write about any language, web programming language, that's all, you can actually go to W3 School and learn them. Okay, so that is just that I actually learned from here quite a lot of time. But the point I want to make with this website is this. So you see that once I load this particular domain name, okay, this is a domain, w3schools.com is a domain that I have just loaded, and you see that it landed in a particular page. If you take a look at here, we are not actually seeing the file name right here, but I want you to understand that the page that has been loaded right now is called an index.html or .php or .asp, depending on the language that you're using writing the web page. Okay, so for that reason, it means that there is a special name that you can actually give to a folder if you are working on a website called index.html, .php, .py, whatever language. And then when you come to that folder, it automatically loads that particular file. Okay, so in our own case, we know we'll have a folder that is on the desktop, which we basically call the HTML and CSS right here. Okay, so this is the folder. We've got nothing inside of it. So we're going to create our first file called the index.html, and once we save our code inside of it and then try to open this particular folder up in our browser, it's going to first of all load that particular index. Okay, it's going to load whatever that is in that index for us by default. That's the default. There are some other ways you can actually control it. If you don't want it to actually load that, you can put some code that will redirect. Okay, but that's just a topic that we can do in the future. So we're wasting more time. Let's go ahead and save this file. So I'm going to click on file and then click on save as, and it's going to bring out this save as dialog box for me. So all I need to do, first of all, I need to navigate to that folder that is on the desktop. Okay, so remember we'll call that HTML and CSS. So I'm going to go to my desktop and then find that folder. Look at it right here. I want to open that up. So it's open right here. So we can go ahead and then save this with any file name. But in the case of our first file, we want to save that with index.html. .html is just the language that we're writing. So that's why we're going to add that extension HTML. Just like in your document, if you save, let's say you are saving something like your CV in doc, if you save it and check the extension, it's going to be .doc. That's just what this means. So I'm going to just say index, but with our programming, we're going to just make sure that we save that with the index, because we want that file, this particular file, to be loaded anytime somebody accesses the folder called HTML and CSS. Okay, so this is it. So once you save it this way, you can actually go ahead and then click on save. Or if you don't want that, you can actually click on this save as type, and you can look for your HTML extension right here. So if you look for HTML and you're able to find it, it's actually called a hypertext markup language. Look at it. This is hypertext markup language. And by the way, if you select this right now, you wouldn't need to actually include that extension that I added just now. Okay, so if you select this one, it's the same thing as saying .html. Okay, so if you don't want to bother yourself, you can just simply say .html and then click on save. Okay, instead of coming here to come and select whatever that I've just selected right now. Okay, so if I'm writing PHP, I will look for PHP and then select it. You just say general purpose editor. Okay, so that's just that. I hope that you guys actually getting what I'm saying. And if you are not getting everything, don't just bother us, just stay. Okay, as time goes on, most of the things that I'm actually explaining right now are going to be very easy for you to understand. We're going to catch them along the way because you persist in this particular thing that we're doing. So I'm going to go ahead and click on save. And by the way, that means that HTML, the full meaning of HTML is hypertext markup language. Okay, hypertext markup language. So we'll have that saved. And if we go to our browser right now on the desktop, you see that that file is now saved into the folder called HTML and CSS. And if I open that up right now, you see that the page opens on our browser. Okay, even though we do not have anything within the body, we cannot find anything in here. But if you take a look at the address bar right here or the title bar, I'm going to see that we have my first website right there. And that's actually produced by this particular line. You see this line? That's actually what produced that particular thing that is on the title bar right there. So, and it's actually very, very important for you to like put that in at the back of your mind. If you want to write, if you want to create pages, let's say it's a blog post that is going to rank on search engines. Let's say, for instance, Google. Okay, so if we go to Google right now, let's say right here, let me say something like how to code a website. Okay, how to code a website using HTML, and go ahead and then open that up. Okay, you see that it searches. But if you take a look at this place, see where they have complete web development courses that never go stale. Okay, this thing that you're seeing right here is what is the title of the this particular blog that you're seeing right here. Okay, and that's what we have just done by putting this in here. Okay, so let's say for instance you are writing a blog about how to cook. You can go ahead and just put something like how to cook right here. You can maybe how to cook rice, something of that nature. Okay, so these things are keywords. So you see rice is a keyword and then cook is a keyword. So anybody searching for these two keywords, how to cook this particular cook rice, if you just say something like cook rice, you see that you are likely going to be ranking. Okay, you'll be ranking for these two key terms, and even this how, this word how right here, are possibly going to be ranking for those terms. Okay, but this is completely an advanced level. Okay, but I want you to just begin to practice yourself and then make your environment organizable for creating things that are going to be actually rankable in case you're ever going to start creating blogs and then things of that nature. Okay, so let me return this to what it used to be. So this is what we had earlier. So that's basically how to create your title. Then for us to actually see something on the web page, the body of our web page, that has to come through a tag that is actually called a body. And to do that is actually going to be here. So if we get down to this particular place, we can create a tag that we're going to call body, and you can close that body right there. So this is going to be body, and in between this body right now, anything we write in here is going to show in the body section of the website. Okay, it's basically going to show in the body section of the website. For instance, if I say how are you doing today, so you're going to see that if I save this right now, I just pressed the Ctrl S to save. You can alternatively go to this place and then click on save the changes that you have just made. So if I refresh this page right now, you're going to notice that something shows in the body of the web page. So that's actually how to code something that will show in the body of our web page, even though the way that we did it right now is actually not correct. Remember that I said earlier that HTML code actually written in tag, but we did not put this in a tag and it was able to produce it. I want you to know that we're wrongly created how are you doing today on that page. So we're supposed to have something wrapped around this. Okay, this has to be in paragraph or in headings. Okay, tags. So for that reason, it means that we're jumping into a topic that is actually called headings and paragraph right now. So to do that right now, and of course I believe that you know what a heading is. So to create a heading in HTML environment, we use HTML. We use the letter that is actually, or the tag that is actually called H. Okay, so it has to be either H1, H2, H3, up to that of the H6. Okay, so with that, it means that we have up to 6 headings that you can actually create in a web page. Okay, once you create a heading, you can actually go ahead and create paragraphs under it. Okay, so for that reason, let's say that this is our first heading. So I'm going to just say heading 1, and we can go ahead and then close that heading right here by introducing a forward slash and then say heading 1. And we can basically copy this and then put that right here. Okay, in between this, remember we say that anything can be in between the tags, tag name. Okay, so let's say that this is going to be the heading of our web application. Most people normally put the name of their website right here. Okay, but depending on what you're doing, let's say you are writing a document, the heading can actually be the same thing with that of the title. Okay, so that's why I copied that into that particular place. So I'm going to save that right now, and if I refresh this page, I'm going to see that that actually becomes bold. Let's say the heading 1 actually becomes bold. So with that, it means that heading 1 is more important than heading 2, and heading 2 is more important than heading 3, and it goes down that way. Okay, so for that reason right now, what I'm going to do is going to be very simple to differentiate between the headings right now. So let's just let's add something here. Let's say heading 1, just something of that nature. So let this be heading 1, and I'm going to copy this and paste it maybe 5 more times. Okay, so let's change this from heading 1 to heading 2, and we should change this to heading 2, and this should be heading 2. Okay, so this should be heading 3, and let's change this to 3, and let's change this to H3 right there, and this is going to be H4. Let's change this to H4, and this one is going to be H4 too, and this one is going to be H5. So this is H5. Change this to heading 5, and this is going to be heading 5, and I think it remains just one more line, and I'm going to change this to that, which is going to heading 6, and let this be 6, and let this particular one right now be 6. And with that, it means that we've actually created the 6 headings that they have, and you're going to see how they will appear. So if we go to our browser and then we'll refresh, you see that all of those things actually appear, but the first one is actually bigger than the second one, and the second one is bigger than the third one, and it goes like that. So that just shows how important the precedence, okay, between those headings. Okay, so that's just how that is, and with that, it means that we've actually learned our headings. And if you're wondering how can you actually use this, remember that if you have an article that you're writing, so the major title of the article has to be in heading 1, and after you have that heading 1, you can go ahead and describe the article using something like a paragraph. Okay, so with that, we're going to go into creating paragraph right now. So if you want to create a paragraph, let's say we're describing heading 1, we're going to put that in a tag that is actually called a P tag, okay, and that's short for paragraph. So I'm going to just say P, and I can go ahead and then describe this. So this is the description to my heading 1, okay, and you can go ahead and close that out. Okay, so I'm just basically describing my heading 1 right here. Okay, so you can actually copy the same thing, put that on the next one. If you're describing the heading 2, so change this to heading 2 like that. So I know that you know how to write articles. Okay, once you have a heading, you want to go ahead and then describe that with something like a paragraph, and every paragraph has one central idea. So no matter the lines of description that are actually going to be given, you are going to have to put that in a paragraph, and you can have multiple paragraphs under these guys. So just make sure that the central idea under every paragraph is just one. Okay, so, and we don't have things like a heading, maybe P1 or P2, those kind of things. We don't have that. Okay, so you can repeat headings, I mean paragraphs, you can repeat them. So we just make sure that the information that each paragraph contains is just one. So, all right, so let's save this, and if we go back to the browser and we'll refresh, and you see that there's now a paragraph under heading 1 and also a paragraph under heading 2. You can go ahead and add other paragraphs to some other headings that we're having here. Okay, so that's just that, guys. All right, so this is like a hello world kind of application to that of your HTML. You've just written your first hello world, and we'll basically have to actually close here so that you can reserve other things for some other things that we want to do. But I just want to do one more thing right now. So we can actually, maybe let's try to change the color of this particular line of code, because you can actually change colors using your HTML and CSS. This is actually CSS, but we can actually type CSS inside of your HTML. They normally call that, I think that's actually internal or inline CSS, but we're going to just clarify ourselves as we move along with that. But if you want to just change this line of code right now, the color, you can just say style, and you can just go ahead and then do something like, let's say in quotation, this is actually an attribute, okay? So we want to add one more thing to that. You can just say something like color, and we can go ahead and say something, let's say red, and then we'll terminate that line. And don't bother yourself if you don't actually understand everything that I'm doing. Okay, it's okay, perfectly okay not to understand everything the first time you try to learn a new language, or you try to learn a new skill. Okay, but as time goes on, if you persist, you are going to see that all of these things that I'm actually typing right now are going to be just very simple for you to type them by yourself. You can even teach this in the future. So just pay attention, just be sure that you don't lose focus. Don't be afraid if you don't understand everything. And you can actually put any question that you have in the comment section. I'm going to respond to them. Okay, all right, so if I save this right now and then go back to my browser and refresh, you see that we'll now have the heading of our web page now being red. Okay, so if you want to change the color of the page, you can actually do that. Okay, so but we're going to just stop right here. Okay, so that's just the first class in actually learning how to type the real HTML code. Okay, so as time goes on, we're going to see how is it that we can actually transform this into a website that looks absolutely beautiful. Okay, that has to be done with CSS, but we haven't gotten into that yet, even though we're going to be kind of combining the two as we move along. Okay, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.